let me make the following point. A lot of people learn stuff from FTX and Mt. Gox, but I'm not sure they learned the things that the institutional community needs to learn going forward. The current conventional way to publish proof of reserves is an insecure proof of reserves. It actually dilutes the security of the issuer, the custodians, the exchanges, and the investors. It's not a good idea. It's a bad idea. It's like publishing the address and the bank accounts of all your kids and your phone numbers of all your kids, and then thinking somehow that makes your family better. It doesn't make your family better. So no institutional grade or enterprise security analyst would think it's a good idea to publish all of the wallet addresses such that you can be traced back and forth, and every future transaction can be traced. I would say, go to AI, put it in deep think mode, and then ask it, what are the security problems of publishing your wallet addresses, and how might they undermine the security of the company over time? It'll write you a book. It'll be 50 pages of security problems. So the problem with proof of reserves, the way that people do it right now, is it's first of all, it's a proof of assets that is insecure, and it is not a proof of liabilities. And so if you really want crypto security and you're maxi about this, my suggestion is buy Bitcoin, self-custody your Bitcoin. It's pretty freaking obvious, right? You should own the Bitcoin yourself if that's what you want. If you're going to be a securities investor, okay, if you invest in securities, what you want is an institutional grade proof of assets and proof of liabilities with them netted out, okay? And the best practice of that is not to publish the wallet. The best practice of that would be have a Big Four auditor that does an audit that checks to make sure that you actually have the Bitcoin, and then you also have to check to make sure the company hasn't rehypothecated or pledged the Bitcoin or entered into any debt or credit obligations where the Bitcoin is pledged. And you have to net those out, and you have to publish those, and you have to sign them as the Big Four firm. Then you have to wash it through a public company where the CFO signs, then the CEO signs, then the chairman and all the outside directors are civilly and criminally liable for it. And so if you really want the best practice for securities attestation, it would be a public company with a Big Four auditor with an audit subject to Sarbanes-Oxley in the United States. That's what my company is. It's much better than simply a proof of reserves wallet. At some point, I would say, I can see implementing some kind of proof of reserves if you can come up with a zero knowledge proof that blinds everybody from being able to track the underlying wallets. But even then, you have to clear it with your custodians, your exchanges, your outside auditors, your risk managers, your officers, your directors, and think it through and make sure there's no security hole. But even if you did that, you still are missing the other half of the equation, which is, so you own 63 billion worth of Bitcoin. Do you have $100 billion of liabilities? Because if you've incurred 5, 10, 20, or $50 billion of liabilities via fiat contracts, the security's no good, right? And publishing a simple wallet that you can track is really just a crypto parlor trick. So I get why people like it, and it's sort of interesting if you have an exchange. But let me tell you, the real lesson you should learn from FTX and Mt. Gox is, don't do business with shaky offshore exchanges run by juvenile tweakers. Okay? If you're a crypto person, hold your own crypto. And if you're an institutional investor, let me tell you, I've had institutional investors since 1998, so I go back a ways, right? 27 years. Institutional investors would laugh at me if I said, look, here's a bank account that has $100 billion in it, or here's a wallet that has $72 billion. And they're like, well, what about the liabilities on the balance sheet? I'm like, well, don't you worry your pretty little head about that. That doesn't matter. Let's just pretend we don't have any. They're like, yeah, right. So at the end of the day, securities investor wants to see an audit. They want to, by the way, they want to see the 10K, and which is very important, and then they want to see the Qs. And they want to see, and by the way, they want to see it from a U.S. company. You wonder why is it that people trust U.S. companies? Because of Sarbanes-Oxley, because you go to jail if you lie. You know, you have civil and criminal liability. It's much stronger than the protections in other countries. Always has been. So, you know, I would just say don't fall in love with your proof of reserves thing like somehow that's, you know, God's gift or the solution. It isn't. It won't protect you from a meltdown. And then don't think that that's critical for securities. What is absolutely critical in the securities market is that the CFO, the CEO, the outside directors, the outside auditors, the risk managers, all be trusted, right? And that's what an institutional investor that puts $1 billion into a public company is going to be thinking about, and they'll obsess over that. That's why, for example, there are a lot of things where we can't do them. Like we can't engage in capital markets activity until we file the 10Q, which is a very critical legal point, or there are a lot of things where the cadence is dictated by the 10K, right? Because if a company can't file a 10K, it means that its auditors won't sign off on its books, which means it technically maybe is insolvent. And so when you're looking at a public company that misses a 10K filing, that's a massive red flag. And that matters, you know, 100x more, 1,000x more than can you show me a wallet that has a certain amount of Bitcoin in it. I personally think there's a lot to be worked out there. You publish your wallets, that's an attack vector for hackers, nation-state actors, every type of troll imaginable, you know, and it creates so much liability that you should think twice before you do it. It's okay at a small level, but really it isn't God's gift, and I think people give too much credence to it on X.